Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting teamsters1932.org/organize to start today.
Summer Working Class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Day 2 of no speaker vacation in the House of Representatives. And the children, yes, the children are running amok. In fact, McCarthy allies they're talking revenge. They're plotting against their other Republicans. They're going to get them back. You wait and see. And look, I got a bunch of emails today from all the different right-wing MAGA groups with Matt Gaetz saying, I'm under attack. Yeah, Matt, you kind of pulled this on yourself. You kind of did the dumb thing that everyone said don't do. You touched the button. You touched the hot stove. And now you're surprised that you're going to get burned. And oh, are you going to get burned? In fact, you're going to get Cawthorned. It is going to happen. If you remember what happened to Madison Cawthorn, remember him? Remember the cautionary tale we talked about him? Lots of dirty laundry. Lots of weird kind of him in bizarre poses with other naked men. There was all kinds of stuff. And this is one of those things where if you live in a glass house, you don't throw stones. Don't do it. You just don't do dumb stuff. So it has begun. Markwayne Mullin, the senator. Now, this is the thing. The House is usually where all this insanity plays itself out. Because it's supposed to. The House is where the rages of the people are supposed to rage. You're supposed to have chaos a little bit. The Senate is where the upper chamber, where the adults are supposed to be. But you had Mark Wayne out today. Oh, Mark Wayne threw the opening salvo in the Cawthorning of Matt Gaetz. Evidently said that Matt Gaetz told him, bragged how he would crush up erectile dysfunction medicine and then snort it and chase it with energy drinks so he could go all night long. I said, this is obviously before he got married. And this is another one of those things where you go, wait a second, you said he had sex with underage women. You can't have sex with an underage girl. You can't. Because it's a crime. It's called rape. That's what that's called. And by you saying that he did, kind of pulls you in. We're in kind of weird territory. So while they're Cawthorning Matt Gaetz, and no one deserves it more than Matt Gaetz, going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Because ultimately, the Republicans want their pound of flesh. They're going to get their revenge. And this is, some people are saying, could this be the end of the party? I don't know. I'm not going that far, but there will be a pie fight. Now, here's the thing. I don't need a Harvard professor to tell me that things are bad. In fact, Daniel Ziblatt, his name is a professor of government at Harvard University. He was quoted in the Washington Post. And look, again, you don't necessarily need to be a Harvard professor. He says, if you want to know what it looks like when democracy is in trouble, this is what it looks like. It should set off alarm bells that something is not right. And look, something has not been right for some time. You know, the fact that we elected a reality TV star as president and then expected him to have plans that he didn't. We expected the Republican Party, to change its spots and not enrich the wealthy and actually do something, anything, for the working class. Things are not right. Now, on the Democratic side, things are right. Joe Manchin said that he would have voted for Kevin McCarthy, which you go, of course you would have, Joe, because that's what you do. But today, the fun, the entertainment, the main talking points all over the right-wing outrage machine has been Trump, Speaker Trump. In fact, Trump, I guess, put out a picture of himself as speaker, which is kind of weird. But Marjorie Trainwreck Green, she threw out a tweet today saying, and this is brilliant. I want this for her. Now remember when Kevin McCarthy was running for speaker and it took him 15 times to get there? I said, look, I want this for him because I envisioned this coming. Chaos was never not the end result. So I said, look, I want him to wake up every morning with acid reflux and heartburn from knowing he's going to have to wake up and see, the Matt Gaetzes and the rest of the kook caucus. And I want him to go to bed thinking about them, and I want him to have nightmares about them. And during the day, I want them to bump into each other in the hall. And that's what's happened. But now Marjorie Taylor Greene has given me a new hope. I want Donald Trump as speaker. I think it's going to be, no, it's horrible for democracy, horrible for the country. It's going to be terribly destructive, bad thing. But she tweeted out today, if Trump becomes Speaker of the House chamber will be a Trump rally every day. Have you seen a Trump rally? Have you seen the insanity? Have you seen the craziness? She said it would be the House of MAGA. And here's the thing. If you weren't afraid of what we've been talking about for years now, an authoritarian dictatorship, a King Trump, a MAGA house would bring that. Now, evidently, Trump maybe is going to visit the House Republicans. I haven't gotten the definitive answer yet, but there's a possibility he's going to Capitol Hill, kind of talking. And he said, look, he's not going to be permanent speaker. Might do it for 90 days. He might give it a temporary, part-time kind of thing, because that's how Trump does things. That's how Trump rolls. Only problem is going to have to change some rules. Those 91 indictments, minor impediment. But hey, nothing that the Republicans can't overcome. Now, the weird thing is the not in love with Trump crowd, they're going to have to say yes to him, which means death for them at home. So for me, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's bring Trump in. Let's make sure that he is speaker. Let's give him the gavel. Let's let him bloviate. Let's let him say all the crazy stuff he's been saying. And maybe the mainstream corporate-controlled media, maybe they'll pay attention. Because they haven't been to this point. Nothing. And this is the part that bothers me. With all of the violent rhetoric that's been coming out of his mouth. There was a piece over at the Washington Post today. Where he's saying, look, Trump's talking about extrajudicial killings, that hasn't been covered by the mainstream media. Talking about, he talked about, when people loot that, we should be able to just shoot people. and we should be shooting people and doing all this stuff, and the mainstream media didn't pick up on it. There was nothing. It just went. And I'll be honest, I let it go too, because I'll be honest, every crazy thing he says, I have to decide whether is this something worth amplifying? Is this something worth giving attention to? Like a child. I mean, this is like a child. Do you give bad behavior attention? And our media has always given him all of the attention his ego has ever craved. And the thing is he's getting further and further off the fringe. He's getting further and further off the beaten path to get that attention, to get that fix. For instance, he was interviewed by Hassan over at MSNBC, and this phrase he's used a couple of times. All these immigrants coming in, nobody knows where they're coming from. Nobody knows if they were coming from prisons or mental health institutions or insane asylums. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows if they're terrorists. Nobody knows anything. Playing on people's fears. He says, it's very sad for our country. It's poisoning the blood of our country. It's poisoning the blood of our country. And look, rightly, everyone who paid attention to this is thinking, holy moly, that sounds a lot like 1930s Hitler rhetoric. Because it is. Now, understand, Trump says he's a student, kept the book right in his bedstand, evidently, kept speeches in Hitler speeches in his nightstand. I don't know that that's nighttime reading, maybe in Trump world. But we're in this place where how do we handle this? Somebody who clearly wants violence, clearly wants the destruction of our social norms, the destruction of our institutions for their power, for their control, for their worldview. Democracy be damned. That Constitution that they talk about that they've never read, that be damned. It's about their power and their control. And ultimately, it comes down to wealth and money. So the more I look at this, the more I'm concerned. And while I'm kind of trying to make light of a Speaker Trump, because I think it would maybe be a shock to our system, maybe Americans would start to pay attention, maybe put down the American Idol and Cheetos or whatever it is that the bread and circus of today is, and maybe start paying attention to the reality that democracy is under attack, that the world that we grew up in, the America I grew up loving and wanting to defend, that America is going away quickly. And as the Harvard professor says, right now, something's wrong. This is what it looks like when democracy is in trouble. This is it. Alarm bells should be going off in every freedom-loving American's head, because something is not right. And what's not right is we've got a Republican Party that seems to be in the pocket of a foreign dictator, seem to be doing the bidding of Putin, and social norms be damned. History be damned. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com. I got a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
And look, with all of this chaos, we still haven't even talked about what's going to happen down the road. Government shutdowns coming quickly. What, 42 days now? We got 43 days until the next one, the next fear, and we've got no functional government. Nothing. Let's go to the phones. Got Steve on line 1 from Chicago. Steve, how are you today?
Yes, I'm fine. Well, in this case, it's Steve from Dallas. I'm in Dallas on business, and for anybody who doesn't travel very much, I mean, in this day and age, I would suggest getting out and about and seeing exactly what it is that's going on in your country, because this is very much a country that's divided. Every time I come down here to Dallas or Houston, I go out to Arizona, a few other places where I do business. Yeah, it's night and day from Chicago. Or when I do business in New York, and I have an office in D.C., it is amazing the way in which people here think about what's going on in the world, because you would think that Joe Biden was, Mao Zedong reincarnated if you talk to them. I mean, they literally believe that, the federal government is going to kick in their door any day and take all of their guns. And that, that their kid's slot at Texas A&M and UT is going to be taken by some Venezuelan immigrants. I mean, this is the level of crazy. But, we didn't get here overnight. I mean, I would argue that, you can go back further, but in terms of the modern age, this starts with Ronald Reagan and the whole, government is the problem, not the solution. And this is the birth of the modern neocons. And then they had their run until they crashed the economy in 2008 and 2009. At which point, the populist part of the movement of conservatives in this country said, okay, who can we trust? We can't trust these people anymore. I mean, they were promising us trickle-down economics. I'm still waiting for my money to trickle down.
Yep.
And then they crashed the economy. Well, along comes the populists, the Tea Party nuts.
The Buchanan wing.
The Freedom Caucus. Yeah, exactly. So these are the wackos who you needed as a substitute for the people whose policies had failed. Of course, we, the sensible human beings on the planet, we're always saying the same thing with regard to neocon trickle-down economics. It was ridiculous, and it was never going to work. And why? Because we actually have history to show us that it doesn't work. When the robber barons of the 19th century made their fortunes, and then, by the way, many of those fortunes were greater than anything that exists today when you control for inflation, they did not share that wealth. This idea that we're simply just going to share wealth. No, instead it was a race to the bottom, just like it's been a race to the bottom since the Reagan era. So now you have the populists, and of course, they're a Frankenstein monster at the Republican Party. They're not the majority of Republicans, but they're enough of the Republican Party to where they hold sway over the party. And so now sensible Republicans can't govern, if there is such a thing. I would argue that, okay, I don't agree with Republicans, but there are some of them that I could work with. I could work with Liz Cheney. I don't contend that I have anything in common with her in terms of policy, or Mitt Romney, or Adam Kinzinger, or others, but they were sane human beings who in the end would say that America comes first, and that that politics needs to end at the shore, and no matter what else happens in this country, that the survival of the republic comes first, before any human being, before any party, before any ideology. Today, no. Donald Trump would be willing to burn down this country as long as he could be king of the ashes, and that's what we've come to. And unfortunately, it's going to take sensible people in the Republican Party, because I don't think we as Democrats or progressives, liberals, however you want to label us, we can't save them. They've got to save themselves. We can hope to get as many independents on our side with regard to elections and policies, but they need to save their own party, because, as I've said before, this country does need two functional parties if it's going to survive.
Yep.
Because I don't agree with much of what Republicans have to say, but I do think that they represent a large cohort of voters in this country, and if those people don't feel that they're represented in government, that's very much problematic with regard to the potential for instability in society. So, yes, I mean, they need to save their party. I don't know exactly how they do it, other than remaking it, saying, you know what, we just divest ourselves of the wackos, the Matt Gaetz, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lauren Boebert, saying yes, of course, the Donald Trumps, and we go back to being the party that we used to be. At least to the degree that we were common sense people and we knew that that destroying the country isn't a victory. That's like saying, you know what, you can win a nuclear war. No, you can't win a nuclear war.
No, I've said for years, Republicans, take your party back somewhere near the sane line. It's going to come back. It comes down to the voters. It comes down to people not buying into the kind of rhetoric. But sadly, what Trump says appeals to a large number of voters in this country. The kind of misogyny, the kind of homophobia, the kind of nationalism, that kind of stuff sells in Republican circles.
Yeah, well, and our problem is that.
Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
I would argue some on the left as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have our fringe elements as well. And to be perfectly frank, going into 2024, given how important an election it is, if I had my way, I would, put a muzzle on some of them. Just be quiet. You're not helping us in this election cycle. Okay, I understand that that we're a party of a lot of voices, but, we don't want to give them ammunition because we've got some fringe nuts. And then when they open their mouths, then the Republicans latch onto that, and that becomes the talking point at Fox for a week. When that person does not represent the vast majority of Democrats in this country. And so, yes, we've got to do something about how people assimilate knowledge because, unfortunately, like I said, I travel. You can try and talk to these people as if you're using reason and rationality, logic, scientific methodology, asking them to look at research, asking them to look at the scholarship in these fields and the history of it. No. They have their own sources. Some of them are out and outright nuts with regard to where they're getting their information, and they believe this stuff. I mean, I have met people who believe that Donald Trump is still secretly running this country.
I know.
Yeah,
but yet it's Joe Biden's fault for the inflation.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, okay, so in other words, what do you take issue with, and what you then blame Donald Trump? Oh, they get confused on that one. It's hard keeping up with the conspiracies, and I'm actually ashamed of myself that I find myself trying to keep up with this. Okay, so let me see. Donald Trump is going to parachute into onto the White House lawn with JFK Jr., who isn't really dead, and they're going to take power and save the country.
Yeah, because you're down there in Dallas. They were supposed to come back to Dealey Plaza. But, Steve, I appreciate the thoughts, man. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alice on line 2. Alice, how are you today?
Somewhat insane.
So what's on your mind?
Not totally. What I wanted to say is this. We've really got some deep issues here. And as a society, we're going to have to make some very tough decisions. And here's what it comes down to. We have a minority rule by a bunch of, let's just flat out tell it like it is, lunatics who want to do nothing more than to destroy the Constitution, to destroy our nation, and set it up as some sort of weird biblical right-wing fascist paradise kind of deal. And we're going to have to really make some tough decisions, but instead we sit back and go, well, no, we can't do that because that would be against their rights. Obviously, what we need to do is say, okay, these people are right-wing terrorists and throw their hind ends in jail. But we won't do that because we don't want to offend the right wing because they'll cry and they'll say how they're being picked on because they're Christians or Republicans or white. I mean, that's what it comes down to. But at some point, we're going to have to do this because here's the deal. If we don't, they're going to take over, and I can assure you they're not going to worry about whether it's somebody's constitutional rights or not.
No, you got that right. Appreciate the thoughts, Alice.
So, have a good evening.
No, that's like you when you stop and think about where we're heading, and you listen to the rhetoric coming out of the right wing spin machine. And I spend a little time every day listening to the outrage factory on the right. And it's all about how horrible Joe Biden is and how everything's his fault. And you get into the real kook stuff. Then Trump's still running things, and it's amazing that we've gotten where we've gotten. And I blame the fact that we have a corporate control of our media that has gotten so large that there's no more local newspapers. There's very little trustable local news anymore. And the stuff that is, it's all bad. Because the moneyed interests don't want an informed, active, engaged populace. They want what they've got. They want people who are just smart enough to do the jobs, but not smart enough to realize they're getting screwed, and divided and ready to eat each other at every opportunity. Scary, scary stuff. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, our good friend Sarah Burris is going to be here to share some thoughts on the top stories of the day. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1886. That was the day Henry George accepted the nomination to run for mayor of New York on the United Labor Party ticket. In cities across the country, trade unionists met to found state labor parties and to hammer out political platforms for local and state elections. In New York City, ULP advocates issued the Clarendon Hall platform and nominated Henry George as the ULP candidate for the mayoral race. George had gained prominence with the 1879 publishing of his book, Progress and Poverty. In it, he addressed private land ownership as the basis for inequality and advocated for a single tax system. At New York's Cooper Union that evening, where thousands of supporters gathered, George addressed the crowd. He presented the ULP platform of higher wages, shorter hours, better working conditions, government ownership of railroads and communications, and the end to police repression. Burroughs and Wallace described the scene that night in their book, Gotham, A History of New York City, to 1898. During his speech, George declared, quote, "This government of New York City, our whole political system is rotten to the core." He argued that politicians had made a trade out of assembling votes and selling them to powerful interests. What business got in return was police protection, lax enforcement of housing and health codes, friendly judges, and fat franchises. To purify the political order, working class voters had to sever ties to all the established parties and choose from their own ranks. For a party that had just been founded weeks before, George came in second. But like its sister organization in Chicago, the New York ULP would split over issues of socialism within a year. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
What amazes me about outbreaks of bribery among high government officials is not just the level of greed involved, but that the take is often so cheesy. For example, there seems to be no end to the ongoing saga of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's peddling his position and prestige to right-wing corporate titans for what? Free rides on their jets, golf outings, and assorted baubles. He's supposed to be an impartial justice, but he consistently supports rich interests who are picking up his tabs. We taxpayers provide $274,000 a year in salary to Thomas. Why wouldn't he buy his own baubles and protect a smidgen of his judicial integrity? Now comes New Jersey's Senator Robert Menendez, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who has been oddly insistent on giving U.S. weaponry and financial aid to Egypt's repressive military dictatorship. Why? Because Menendez has sunk butt deep into influence peddling, using his position to advance Egyptian interests. In exchange, Egyptian agents have blessed him with huge wads of cash, gold bullion, a Mercedes-Benz convertible, and a no-show job for his wife. Oh, they also delivered an air purifier for his home. Seriously? An air purifier? That's a mighty cheap sellout. Yet, what a priceless symbol of the whole stinky deal. Meanwhile, Menendez says that the donations are unrelated to his honest concerns about our Mideast foreign policy. He proudly asserts that his senatorial assistance is just the, quote, normal work of a congressional office. This is Jim Hightower saying, sadly, he's right. Most Senate offices today routinely do official favors for moneyed interests in exchange for millions of dollars in bribes. But that's such an ugly word, so they call the big money payments campaign contributions. Then they get indignant when we call the system corrupt, but that's what it is.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So big news. Got breaking news. This is actual big breaking news. Don't do this very often. Don't do the breaking news. Hey, look at us kind of stuff. But this breaking, and that's why I've brought in my good friend Sarah Burris. She's a reporter over at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website. She has a big story. Sarah, thanks for taking time for us. What is the breaking news? What is the big story? What is this momentous? What is this thing?
Hey, so our favorite New York lawyer, Michael Cohen, woke me up from my afternoon nap and said, hey, guess what? Donald Trump dropped his $500 million lawsuit against me. And the thing that is so major about this is Trump has basically been running from a deposition since he filed this lawsuit in April. Like from the very beginning, he filed it in April and he goes, oh, and by the way, we don't really want to do anything with this lawsuit until October. And it's like, that's not how that works. No. Like immediately you go, okay, let's do depositions. Let's go through with all of the court procedure, yada, yada, yada. They didn't want to do anything. And so Trump has kind of spent the last 6-7 months delaying until ultimately that's what happened, is he delayed it until October. Well, now the dude was supposed to give a deposition on Tuesday, and he told the judge in Miami, oh my God, I cannot be there in Miami because I have to be in New York for this civil trial. You know, the civil trials are really important. I have to be there to, you know, uphold my name of my company and my family name and yada, yada, yada. And then he left. So basically it looks like he lied to the judge.
Yeah.
And so Trump was supposed to show up and give his deposition next, I think Monday. And so tonight he was just like, no, I'm dropping it. But Cohen just sent me a text message. He says, as I've said from the beginning, this case was nothing more than a retaliatory intimidation tactic and an attempt to hide from routine discovery procedures confirms as much. This is my favorite part. Mr. Trump's cowardly dismissal spells the end of this latest attempt to deter me from providing truthful testimony against him. Yay. My legal team and I now look forward to turning our full attention to holding Mr. Trump accountable for his latest abuse of the legal system. More to come.
Yeah.
So.
No, this is the thing that gets me. I mean, you know, I remember him filing that. And I remember going, you know, you're going to have to be deposed and there's going to be discovery. It's like yesterday I talked about Giuliani is suing President Biden because Biden said that he's Putin's puppet. Well, okay, now you're suing Biden. So his lawyers are they're going to comb through.
Destroy you.
Exactly.
They will destroy him. And that's the thing, is like, then you'll end up having all of this information that could prove that Giuliani really was Putin's puppet. Like it could end up working out in Biden's favor.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what happened here with this Cohen case. Is it's like, dude, Cohen has spent years and years with this man, working with this man, and now suddenly he has an opportunity to have his lawyers ask questions under oath about things that he as a lawyer could not discuss.
Yeah.
And now suddenly it would, be in the public record from the court documents. And of course he wasn't going to get deposed. I mean, it's just the stupidest thing in the world, but he has gone on with this, you know, for months. And that's the thing that Trump does, right? Is he sues people to intimidate them and forces them to pay months and months of legal fees, and then drops it out of the blue and is like, okay, we're done here. But the thing is now it sort of feels like the turnaround is fair play with Trump. Now he's the one who really has to deal with all of these lawsuits and all of these legal fees. And, you know, it's got to, like, he's starting to run out of cash.
Yeah, no, it's starting to catch up with him. Now, Will, you go back to your little text machine and ask Cohen if he's going to sue for legal expenses for a frivolous lawsuit, because can you just, you know, file a lawsuit? They go, oh well, we changed our mind. Yeah, no harm, no foul. Can you do that?
That is a good question, because in sorry, I was actually doing it as you were saying. Sue for legal expenses.
Yeah, let's see if we get a response back on that, because, you know,
right?
Because it's always been my view that you file these, you better go through with it.
And Florida in particular, the thing is that they have the frivolous lawsuit laws too. I don't know what their slap suits are necessarily, but already there was the lawsuit that Trump lost when he sued Hillary Clinton and like 500 other people, you know. And he and what's her name, his other lawyer, du jour, got fined like a ton of cash. I think it was almost $1 million.
Yeah,
so,
look, every you know, I think it was Rick Wilson who said it, everything Trump touches dies.
yes.
Or everyone Trump touches goes broke. Because today, the beautiful statement today, Mike Lindell, broke. We've lost everything, every dime. It's all gone. All of it, he said. Those are his words. We've lost everything. Every dime, all of it is gone. His lawyers are bailing on him, and he's still being sued by what, $3 billion by Dominion. Smartmatic is going after him for a huge amount of money. That guy, he better come up with a new gimmick besides a pillow and slippers.
Yeah, because basically it's going to end up being Smartmatic brings you pillows at the end of this thing. So Cohen responded, and so I said, "Are you going to sue him for legal expenses?" And he goes, "Look at the last sentence of my quote, which is more to come." So pretty sure that's an indication of yes.
There's your answer. And the thing is, the judge, and looking at what the judge did, with Trump, having to disclose all of the LLCs, basically lay everything out. I mean, do we now find out he's not as rich as he said he was, and he doesn't own half of what he claims he owns? And do we now find that it was all just a con, that all of it, that some of us believed it was from the beginning?
Exactly. Like, that's the thing, is I feel like we spent the first year of the campaign and first year of his presidency digging through all of these financial documents, and none of it really made sense to folks who cover this kind of economic issues. And
Right.
for the biographers like Tim O'Brien and David K. Johnston, they're like, y'all, we've been doing this for decades. He ain't got no money. And interesting, it's one of the funny things that of all people, Joy Behar in The View talks about, is she's like, he didn't hate Rosie O'Donnell until she started questioning his wealth. The second she started questioning his wealth, it was like, he was on her. And that was the genesis of their feud.
Can you do that again? But here's the thing, and I guess this is the serious question then, because I've been saying from the beginning he's been a con man. I've believed he's been a con man all along. You've heard all of the stories back in 2015 and 16 about all the people that he stiffed, the bankruptcies, all this stuff. Will it matter to the faithful? I mean, is there an epiphany? Is there a light bulb moment? Do you think for some that they go, "Oh, I was conned"? Do you think that's possible?
Oh no! I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show about cultism, and the way that Cohen talks about, living life under the world of Donald Trump is, it's a lot like a cult, where you have this this personality, this this God that you're following around like an evangelical pastor, and it's that Joel Osteen kind of thing, and people flock to it. And so I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing with him. Like, he, obviously has his private jets and all of his fancy lifestyle, and he probably has more money than Donald Trump does too. And in the end, that doesn't deter them from him. I think what will change is one of my favorite things that happened today. My favorite piece of news, other than this, obviously, was Representative Moskowitz filed or sent a letter to the Palm Beach County appraiser.
Yep. And
said, "Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but Donald Trump has been saying that his Mar-a-Lago property is worth like $1.5 billion. You assessed it at something else. Is it possible that maybe he should be paying a hell of a lot more in property taxes?"
And look, I said that from the beginning. If these properties are worth what he says they're worth, why isn't he paying taxes out the wazoo on them?
Yes.
As any one of us would be.
And the thing is if you look at all of those documents, whenever his property taxes went up based on the assessment, his lawyers were, his accountants and his lawyers were on it fast. They were just like, oh no, we dispute this. Mar-a-Lago isn't worth whatever it was that you said it was. It's actually worth a lot less. So our property taxes are going to be a lot less. And so it's like it's exactly what the lawsuit in New York is about,
right?
Where he's playing this game of, it's cheaper here, it's more there.
But here's the thing, and I'm going to defend him a little bit, because rich people get away with this all the time. This is rich group. This is a rich people thing. And the thing that infuriates me is, people would defend Trump. Well, he's just smart. No. This is what rich people get away with all the time. Trump has exposed it, and good for him. Thank goodness Trump has put himself out there to be exposed as the fraud that he is and the cheat that he is, so that maybe we can deal with it. For me, the thing that came out of this trial was his defense. And maybe you'll think it's as important as I do. He says, I can't overinflate my properties because I can always go to the Saudis and get what I want. And I'm going, wait a second. How is that possible?
Yeah.
And then what are you giving the Saudis so that they're giving you whatever you want?
Yeah, I mean, that's where this sort of goes from just a regular everyday rich dude who's bilking the system to, holy crap, did he just reveal that he has some sketchy relationships with the Saudi government and that they owe him money for stuff?
Yes. But here's the thing. We find out today. This is another one of those things. And I go back to something I've said a million times in the Trump era. Think about everything we know about Donald Trump. Think about everything that we've heard, all of the horrible stories, all of the, those soldiers are suckers and losers. And, think about all of that stuff. And then imagine all the stuff we don't know.
Yeah.
So this story comes out today that, he's with this Australian billionaire and he's leaning in and whispering and telling him about our nuclear subs. And, my mind goes to this place of, are there any people working in Mar-a-Lago who aren't on some foreign country's, intelligence payroll somewhere? Aren't spies for some foreign intelligence agency? Because national secrets are laying on tables in the bathrooms. He's whispering to people in the ballroom about our nuclear capacity. Really?
Here's the thing, though. They don't even have to have their spies placed in there as employees. They can just have some rando pay $200,000 for a Mar-a-Lago membership and then pal around with him all the time, and make friends with him and get him a little lubed up and be like, hey, you want some pie? You want to chat about nuclear secrets? Like, I mean, it's just. It's so absurd, but that's really what was happening. And we suspected as much, but now it really seems like he's kind of just dangling it out there for everyone to see.
What kind of pie?
One of the things, right? I'm sure he eats a lot of pie. I'm sure he probably eats the fried pies from McDonald's. Right. They don't have the actual fried one anymore, do they? They do the baked ones. Anyway, so the thing that I found the most interesting today is the you made me lose my train of thought. Dang you. What were we talking about?
Spies at Mar-a-Lago on the foreign payrolls.
Oh, the thing that we found out today in, I think, one of the filings from Trump's lawyers in Miami for the classified documents case, because they're complaining about how there's no secure facility for them to read stuff and that's delaying things and yada yada. One of the things that I didn't know is that there are 3 documents that he had that are so secret that he can't even view them at a secure facility. He can only view them in Washington, D.C. And at that point, your mind is just reeling about what on earth was this document?
Yeah.
What were these things? What were they saying? And who was he giving them to? No,
and this is the thing. I go back to this story with this Australian billionaire. How many times has this happened? How many people has he, to butter up or to try and, get some kind of favor with? Has he just let stuff out? Or, he doesn't even care that it's top secret or classified because it doesn't matter to him. He's just blurting stuff out. This is why you don't give guys like that the nuclear football. You just don't do it. You don't give them the code. You don't do it.
How many people is he telling Mike Lindell this stuff, and is Mike Lindell then calling up, the Russians being like, hey, I'm in this bad lawsuit with Smartmatic and I need some money.
Yeah,
here's the secret I can give you.
But yet I hear the right-wing, outrage machine going on about, well, Donald Trump was, he was tough on Putin. We know he's got stuff on Putin. You go, really? I think it's the other way around. It's kind of, I think Putin's got stuff on a lot of Republicans. Or why else would they be doing his bidding? I don't know if you saw the statement recently that he basically said the war would end in a week if they could cut off access to Western weapons because they're almost out of weapons. So you see the Republicans in the House going, no, we're going to cut off aid to Ukraine. I don't know. There seems like kind of a quid pro quo there.
It does. It sort of seems like Putin is just writing the press releases for them at this point. And people like Ron Johnson, especially, it's exactly like you say. What do they have on Ron Johnson? What the heck was he doing in Russia whenever he was visiting with Putin there? What videos do they have? Stay away from that vodka, man.
So let me ask you, with all the craziness in the House and all of the fun and entertainment, day 2 of no speaker vacation, evidently now it's going to be retribution and vengeance. They threw Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer out of their offices. Now they're going after Matt Gaetz. They're going to Cawthorn Matt Gaetz, which couldn't happen to a better person. In fact, we can change the Cawthorn to Gaetz when he's gone. Any thoughts on what we're going to see coming? What the fun and entertainment's going to be?
So one of the first things that I thought when all of this was going down with Matt Gaetz is I was like, if John Boehner was there, Matt Gaetz would have been gone a long time ago. He would probably be in jail by now. Just because that's sort of the way that Boehner worked, is he would, if he didn't like somebody, he would find information about them out. And what was that one guy out of Illinois that had the sketchy real estate deals? He got rid of that guy really fast. And really, it's because Boehner was secretly basically passing around different pieces of opposition research to progressive news people.
Yeah.
And that was, how he got rid of folks. I don't think McCarthy, I can't decide if McCarthy either didn't care or if he's so aligned with Matt Gaetz that he actually supported half of the stuff that Matt Gaetz wanted.
Yeah.
Because that's the weird thing, is he's been kind of a nutter for a long time, and he's only been forced to moderate because it's just bad for him in PR terms.
Yeah. So last question. Speaker Trump, yes or no?
So here's the thing: is
a MAGA rally every day. It would be a MAGA rally every day, according to Marjorie Three Names. It would be the House of MAGA. Think about it. Could be fun. Could be entertaining.
Rule 26 of the Republican rules say you can't be the speaker if you've been indicted.
They can change that. They can change it. I got it on good authority. Real simple. They could change it if they wanted to. If they really wanted to, they could change it.
They could. They'd have to elect a speaker, change the rules, fire that speaker, and then elect Donald Trump.
Well, they got a temporary one. They got the bow tie wearing Wall Street.
Yeah. The only action that he can take is he can hold a vote for a new speaker. There's no other thing that he can do.
Well, we will see. We'll see how this. We'll see what happens. But I'm pushing for it. I want Speaker Trump. I think it would be a good thing for the Republican Party. Best thing they could do for themselves.
It's kind of the burn it all down.
Yep.
Method, where it's just like, here, let me just shove you off that cliff that you're standing on.
The dumpster's on fire. Let me just push it into the ocean.
Yeah, kind of. It really is. And you can just burn and drown out there by yourself. Have fun.
I was just going with drown, but you got the burn and drown. All right. Sarah, as always, great stuff. Thank you for the breaking news. I'll look forward to talking to you back here next time.
Oh, thank you. Have a good day tomorrow.
You as well. Our good friend Sarah Burris. Make sure you check out their website, rawstory.com. Find all the incredible work that she does, and I'm sure the breaking news. Quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1945. That was a day known in Hollywood as Black Friday. After World War II, the movie industry began to rake in profits. But they did not pass those profits along to their employees. 10,000 members of the Conference of Studio Unions were on strike. They were part of the Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners. They were also in a jurisdictional battle with the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or IATSE, over who should represent stage decorators. The strike wore on for half a year. The studios had more than 100 films backlogged and were able to wait out the strikers. But as the strike continued and the studios remained silent, pressure mounted. Despite the tensions between the two unions, thousands of IATSE members refused to cross the picket lines. On Black Friday, the strikers decided to concentrate their efforts at the Warner Brothers Studios gate. 300 picketers gathered to hold the line. Scabs, hired by Warner Brothers, tried to drive through the workers' picket lines to the studio. Variety accounted what happened next, writing, quote, "Strikers deployed from their barricades, halted non-strikers, and rolled 3 automobiles on their sides. By noon, reinforcements arrived from both sides. Firemen were called in to turn their hoses on the striking workers. Warner Brothers security deployed tear gas. Common for the time, accusations were hurled that the Conference of Studio Union strikers were communists. As a result of the strike, the Conference of Studio Unions employees were assigned to other jobs in the studios. When they refused, they were locked out. The union never recovered. The violence at the Warner Brothers Studios gate also helped to fuel the passage of the Taft-Hartley Act through Congress, which eroded union protections. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
I mean, stop and think about it for a second. You know, all of the classified documents that found its way to Mar-a-Lago, all of the stories that we already know of Trump, you know, just telling stories, just being Trump, just being a good golf buddy, you know, trying to endear himself to his companion. And, you know, hey, you know, see, this is one of those things that I said from the beginning about the classified documents, and I still believe this. I know a lot of people say, no, he was going to sell them. No, he was going to do all this stuff. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I'm not ruling it out, but I think it's much simpler than that. I think it's, hey, look what I have. Look how important I am. Look at me. It's all about it's always been about his ego. It's always been a love fest about him. These rallies are all to feed his ego. It's not about the people in the crowd. Could care less about them. It's about his ego. And having these classified documents, having things that nobody else has, that's an aphrodisiac. That's his ED medicine that he snorts. You know, like Matt Gaetz, according to Mark Wayne Mullen. Don't know if he did it or not. According to Mark Wayne Mullen, allegedly. Save myself from being sued. But you know, this is one of those things where him having all of this information is dangerous to national security, and we've not had this in any other president throughout history. That we were concerned that, you know, in his business dealings, you know, it might be a good sales thing. You know, if you've ever had lunch with a really slippery salesperson, you know how they like to build themselves up. That's how I see Trump. And are you surprised that he does this? No, I'm not surprised at all. Were you surprised that there were classified documents laying around on the table at a reception? No, of course not. He's careless. He's reckless. He's all of those things. Now, what the MAGA crowd will tell you is that's what they love about him. He's unpredictable. He's dangerous. Yeah, he's dangerous, all right. Dangerous to our national security. Because as I was thinking about this, you go, I wonder how many of our intelligence assets around the world have been murdered because of his loose lips. Because we'll never know. We'll never know how many CIA agents or you know, people around the world because they don't publish their names. There's just a star on the wall somewhere with no name attributed to it. It's just a story. Oh, someone was killed in a car accident on vacation. How many people has his incompetence and his narcissism, how many people have lost their lives because of it? So for all of those flag-waving, Jesus-loving, God-fearing American patriots, ask yourself that question. I'm curious the answer. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Right back.
Unprecedented and deeply alarming.
Scientists are freaking out about September's record heat and Antarctica's missing ice. Critical climate targets still barely within reach thanks to growth of renewable energy. Plus,
we will be bold. We will be radical.
Bold and radical. British Prime Minister cancels high-speed rail, expands offshore drilling.
All that bold, radical news and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
So I have a choice of electrocution or shock. You know what I'm going to take?
Don't care. Both sound good to me. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, the fallout from the summer that is apparently never ending continues today, and now there's concerns down in Antarctica?
Yes, climate scientists are freaking out a bit after the hottest summer in recorded history. Temperatures in September are even more abnormal across the planet. Preliminary data from Japan's Weather Service this week indicates September 2023 beat the previous warmest September by such a wide margin that climate scientist Zeke Hausfather called it, quote, absolutely gobsmackingly bananas. NOAA scientists warn that global heat will keep rising as the El Nino weather pattern in the Pacific peaks early next year, and to, quote, expect more records to be set in the coming months.
I am expecting.
All of that heat has consequences, especially for wildlife that can't escape. In Brazil, more than 100 Amazon River dolphins were found dead in a remote rainforest lake amid record drought and record hot water temperatures that topped 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists are also freaking out a bit because Antarctica's sea ice just hit a new unprecedented record low by an astonishing margin, according to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, increasing concerns that it could be entering a state of accelerating decline brought on by man-made global warming and record warm oceans. It matters because Antarctica's sea ice helps stabilize its vast land glaciers that would raise global sea levels substantially. And sea ice influences the ocean currents that distribute heat, nutrients, and oxygen across the planet.
KCAA Loma Linda. The Legacy KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.